Here's a quick tutorial on how to put together Anna Griffin's Waterfall Dies set. So here we have the instructions for the Anna Griffin Waterfall die. This includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, 5 dies. We have the signature card, base layers, which we want 2 of, and actually I recommend 3, and I'll explain why later. We have a tab. Again, I think 2 is better, and I'll explain why. Also a waterfall layer, just 1 if you're making 1 of these, and the band. So 1 signature card. I would say 3 of these base layers, and 1 of them actually can be just regular paper. It doesn't have to be a thicker cardstock. It's basically, I just think it's better to use 1 to cover this because it tend to snag. So I would just do a thinner sheet of paper. And what I did is actually cut the sides down just like 1/4 inch on each side. Again, just to try and make this slide more easily, which I should be able to explain later. 1 of the waterfall, I would do 2 of the tabs, and then of course just 1 of the band, and that's just to make 1 of these. So start there, and then I'm gonna cut these out, and then we'll go to the assembly. So what I have here, I did them in separate colors so that as I put it together, it might be better, easier to see. So I have the base layer, we'll call the blue one the base layer 1, okay? We have the band that we're going to use later, 1 of those. I liked 2 of the tabs so that they can be on both sides. You'll see what that means later. Base layer 2, sorry, we'll make that the pink one. So this will be 1, this will be 2. Exactly the same size. I made a 3rd one that's slightly slimmer, like I cut off the edges a bit. And really it's because this tab goes on the bottom, but I found that it catches when you slide it in and out. So if you put this over it, it's gonna prevent that from happening. Just something that I'm gonna try out. All right, so now let's start with base layer 1 and the waterfall layer. I apologize, we also have 1 of the waterfall layer. So what you want to do, when it cuts, it'll have score lines in it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to, of course, score them, bend them back and forth to get them nice and flexible, loosen up the fibers, and then you want to take tape, which I'm just going to use a runner. I'm just running it along the top. Now we're going to take this and our, what they're calling base layer 1, right? The tape's on this side, and I'm just going to try to center it and fold it over and tape it so that the tape's on the back of the base layer. So now you have your base layer with your waterfall die. This mechanism basically will move like this with the pictures on it, and it's going to cause that flipping motion. So here we have the waterfall die over base layer 1. So now that 3rd base layer that I cut, that I also said I cut on the sides a little bit off, what you can do, well, really, what you should do is first you're going to take 1 of these tabs. It says to put it on the, put tape along the edge. Of course, you want to line it up and stick it on. And what I did is this tends to catch when you're sliding it back and forth. So I'm taking that third piece I recommended you cut out. I'm covering it. And of course, you don't have to cut a whole sheet. You could just like slice it down a bit, but again, to try and make this as smooth as possible, that's what I did. So this is base layer 1 with the waterfall on it. Don't mind the tape, I'm like redoing this video, so there's old tape on there. Okay, base layer 1, boom. Now you're gonna take base layer 2 and the band. On the edges, you're gonna put tape on the end. And again, don't mind, it looks a little raggedy because I'm redoing this to explain it better. Take the band, you wanna go about 1 1/4 inch from the bottom and wrap it around. So I'm just gonna do like a loose measurement here. And you're taping it around. Here's base layer 2 with the band on it. Now, what you do is take base layer 1, slide it through the band until they meet up. Then you want to put tape on the band and tape this down. So the waterfall die cut is now taped to that band, which we slid base 1 into, so that when we pull it, it makes this motion, right? And you'll see how we put the pictures on when we put the tape on and put the pictures on, how it's gonna flip. I mean, you're almost there. I had cut a second tab. The reason I did is if you wanted to cover it up so that, like, I don't know, sometimes people like that more finished look, but you don't have to. All right, pictures. Okay, so now for the photos. To make it easier, I do have, you know, red tape, double-sided tape, that's 1/4 inch, but I feel like these score lines are that exact measurement, so I'm using a slightly slimmer double-sided. That way it doesn't cause it to stick. That way you can glide it more easily. So what you want to do is start with putting adhesive across the bottom score line. Just like that. Then you're going to take your picture. These are my wedding, well, it was our honeymoon, and I was so in love with this gown. It was my reception gown, a Morley gown. Yes, it's pink. That I brought it to Paris, and we had photos taken, professional photos taken inside our honeymoon, the lobby of the honeymoon, the hotel we were in. Anyway, so there's one. So then now you're going to go up to the next section. You're going to put your next photo there. One mistake I made is I used, I love these scissors with the edges, right, that are all, you know, like it makes it torn. But what was happening is when I would slide the waterfall mechanism, it was getting caught. So I'm leaving the edges clean this time. So now I'm going up to the next one. And I'm going to, oh no. I'm too sick for not using strong tape when you're practicing. I do recommend practicing this. I'll use your good paper the first time you try this, which I did, and it worked okay, but be better than me. Okay, now we're gonna do the last one. There we go. And so, drum roll. Now, you hold the base 2 and you pull down base 1, and the pictures should flip like that. So again, some tips after I've done this once, just once. So tip 1 is don't try to get fancy with the edges because then they'll get caught on each other. I do feel like it's a good idea to put a middle layer in there. I taped mine to base 1 that has the waterfall die on it after I put the tab on. That way the tab doesn't get caught. It was tending to get caught. Those are my 2 tips so far. But I do recommend don't use your favorite paper the first time as you're practicing it. I think it's, once you do it, you got it. I think it's very simple, and it's lots of fun. And of course you can like adhere this into a scrapbook, right? And have them be horizontal and, you know, flip through that way, which lets you add more pictures on one page of scrapbook, which is awesome. So yeah, there it is. The Anna Griffin Waterfall Die. I hope this was helpful. Thanks, guys.